bought this dust collector on special 2 years ago, and so far it has been quite a nice machine to use. However, it is just very underpowered for some of the applications that I do. Sometimes I just wish that I had a much more powerful dust collector without having the need to buy more plastic bags. So of course I'm not going to buy another dust collector, I'm going to build one myself. There are many options in the market for me to base my homemade design on, so let's write down the criteria to narrow down our options. Must be built like a tank. Second one. Must be built like a tank. Must be built like a tank. This last one is very important and applies to everyone out there. Are you ready? Subscribe to. So from these explicit criteria, I think a cyclone separator with a 3 horsepower motor would be the perfect solution. Before this build was even officially started, I bought a 3 horsepower motor from China last year August. Due to numerous delays, it wasn't in my hands until 6 months later. Then I spent an entire weekend trying to get a pulley off of it, which was very messy. It was wedged in so tight that I had to slice the pulley into bits using my angle grinder to get it out. Luckily, there wasn't much damage done to the shaft. So I started by gluing 2 pieces of marine ply together for the impeller mount hub. Then I cut it roughly to size on the table saw, but went too deep in one of the cuts, which in turn actually helped me later on. I could then move on to the bandsaw to cut it almost round. On the drill press, I drilled out the hole in the middle for the shaft of the motor to pass through. And this is where the flat spot that I accidentally cut on the table saw really shined. It helped me to drill out the 2 holes for the set screws that will act as keys on the motor. Since I didn't have the correct size tap for the set screws, I just simply ran it through with a bit of patience. I've set up a block to turn this nice and true. It's already pretty good, but I want it to be perfect. Now that it runs perfectly true, I can remove the bit of material left at the back, right here. Now that I've got this nice and true, I can start making the impeller, which is right here. Well, I still have to cut it out from this piece of MDF, but I want to make the fins first because that requires a lot of glue ups. I've already made a jig for laminating the 2 pieces of MDF together, but I will still have to make the blanks. The glue dries, I can work on the impeller. Here I am using the same technique that Marius used for routing the slots for the curved fins. It did take a while to get it set up, but the results are fairly consistent. This is for the top ring that will help hold the fins in place and prevent them from flying out. The 6 holes are going to help me mount the hub to the impeller base. I'm using 6 50mm screws to secure it down. Hopefully it doesn't fly out. Now that I got it mounted, but it still has a little bit of wobble in it, so I think I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. Now that the glue has dried, I can start working on the fins. I set up my table saw to make a stock cut, because the bottom of the fins has a bit sticking under the dado. The fit with the fins were just a bit too tight and just wouldn't go in, but by forcefully pushing it down into the dado, I got a mark on the fins, which I can use as a reference when filing it down. So now that they all fit, I can cut the corners off from the fins before final assembly. So I've gave the glue the chance to dry, and now it's time to test it out. I'll be kneeling behind that piece of plywood over there, and I'll be plugging the switch behind it. Well, hopefully nothing goes wrong. Now is the time to pray. Well, here goes nothing. Well, I'm still alive. That's good. But I think the motor, the impeller is actually quite loose. So I was actually kind of lucky that it didn't fly out and then just kill someone like me. Yeah. So now I'm gonna tighten it up and then try it again. So I'm still not dead yet. That was actually pretty good. A little bit less vibration, I guess. But the most of the vibration is because the outer ring isn't exactly true. and I tried to poke my head out from the cover while it was on, and that was extremely difficult because there was literally dust everywhere. Like, I could not look directly into the impeller. The wind is just too strong. That's good and bad at the same time. The good thing is that this will be a really strong dust extractor. The bad thing is that it's gonna be a lot harder to try and true this up. Yeah, I'll have to think of another way. Think of another way. Well, it's been a while since I finally came back to this project, and now I have a much better solution to true up the outer ring of this impeller. Basically, I made a really quick and dirty just router mount for my router to mount on so that it's 90 degrees, and then kind of use my sawhorse as a surface to let it slide on, and this way I can just turn on my router and then put it close towards the impeller and then turn the impeller manually by hand. Yeah, which is I think much safer than using a chisel and then turning the impeller while it's active, which is really loud and scary. Well, here goes nothing. Well, that worked a lot better than expected, except for some points like right here where it just catched and then ran away. Other than that, it actually looks really nice. So since this video is already pretty long as it is, I'm going to continue building it in another video.